All right, so you're outside, and ahead of you, you see this enclosure. And there's a gate, but it's an arched gate. So you can see this tall arched gate, maybe about, I don't know, 15 feet high. And on the top of the gate, in big gold letters, it says, "Adapt or Die." And you walk up to it curious, what in the world does that mean? As you get closer, you see a sign off to the left, kind of like a marquee sign. It has a pregnant woman on it. And there's a big X across that sign. No pregnant women allowed. Well, you're not pregnant, so you go up to the gate, and you go in, and there's another smaller gate. Clearly you can't go all the way in. You look, and you see there's a path, and on both sides of the path there are tall walls of green. That's Schisandra growing high, about 10 feet high, all along that path. You see the red berries. You want to go in and explore, but that little gate is locked and you have to pay the price of admission. And fortunately, there's a little old man at a table on your right, and he seems to be the guy that's in charge of opening that gate. You look down into the table and see a small bowl with Schisandra berries in it, and a sign that tells you that you're going to have to pay your admission with the 5 tastes. 5 tastes. So go ahead and put that Schisandra berry in your mouth. And you're going to have to be able to tell that old guy what the 5 tastes are if you want to get in. You might think salty. You might think sour. You might think kind of sweet. Now later on, when you get down to the little kernels, you'll discover 2 more tastes, acrid and bitter. So now that you know what the 5 tastes are, you're ready to tell him. But there's a problem. This little old man doesn't seem to be aware that you're standing there. He seems kind of shriveled up and just half aware. His eyes are open, but he doesn't seem to see you. Maybe they're clouded over. So you speak up and say something to him, and he thinks he hears something, but he's not sure, so you speak a little louder. And he kind of sort of becomes aware of you. And you notice he's just really tired. There's no vitality. This guy's probably just in deep fatigue all of the time. So how are you going to get his attention? Well, not much to do except to lean in and just really be forceful. Let him know you're there and you've got the 5 tastes. Okay, now he's kind of got it, and he reaches over to the cash register with his shaky hand. And it's one of those old-fashioned types of cash registers that when he pushes on a button, or I guess you could call it a button or a key, it goes cha-ching. Ah, a clue. Schisandra is a jing herb. And you may recall that jing tonics are associated in Chinese medicine with kidney essence. That's an important clue about Schisandra. Now the little gate opens and he mentions that you should go in and choose which side you want to collect Schisandra from. He wobbles in after you and shows you to the left where the sun is shining and it's warm, and the Schisandra on that side looks interesting. To the right, it's shady and cool. Well, from what I've already mentioned, you probably already know you've got southern Schisandra under the sun and northern Schisandra under the cool, and that the southern is stronger. So you go over there and he motions for you to pick some. So you reach up and grab some of the stems. They've got a lot of leaves on them and a lot of fruit, and you kind of tug on them till you've got a nice big handful of the stems with the leaves and the berries, and you pull that off. And as you turn around, you kind of accidentally brush him with the Schisandra in your hand, and you can't believe what you see. All of a sudden his eyes clear. He straightens up. His hair starts to grow in. He looks very alert now. And when you mention something, he hears you easily. His whole attitude has changed. And in fact, before your eyes, you can see him turning, maybe 10 years younger? He's full of vitality. More clues. You've seen it yourself. Schisandra clears the vision. It improves hearing. It helps with hair growth. It's anti-aging. And it brings us vitality. Well, so now you're off on your way and you walk down the path and you don't get very far when all of a sudden there's a big invisible man in front of you. He's not actually invisible. He's sort of like see-through plastic, your height. You look into him and all you can see are nerves, his whole nervous system. You can look right through him and see his nervous system, and into his head you can kind of see his brain. And it's very curious, but up in his brain there's something bizarre going on. In our brain we have two basic types of processes competing with each other that need to be in balance. One of them is an excitatory state and the other one is an inhibitory state. Well, the excitatory state is really going at it. It's a rapper. And he's just going on and on, throwing his arms around and jumping up and down. And on the other side of the brain, the inhibitory side, you see a guy laying down on the couch and he's got some beers there and some pizzas. And he's just laying there, not doing anything. Well, this is a pretty imbalanced situation. So, while you're standing there and you're holding your Schisandra, something else bizarre happens. Out from the bottom of the Schisandra in your hand drops a cord with a plug. And you notice that in the man there's a place to plug it in. So you stick the plug in the invisible man and all of a sudden his nervous system lights up. It's stimulating his nervous system. And you look up into his brain, and the guy on the couch gets up, notices the rapper going crazy, gets some beer and pizza and goes over and offers it to him. The rapper's happy, sits down, and now the two of them are having a conversation. Schisandra balances the excitatory and inhibitory processes in the brain itself. Now all of a sudden, the invisible man disappears and you walk further down the path. You turn to your left and you're entering a tunnel, but this is no ordinary tunnel. It looks like you're a shrunken man going into an artery. It's all red. And inside there are all kinds of huge red blood vessels red blood cells and white blood cells and plasma, and it's pretty crowded in there, so you squeeze up against the side of the blood vessels wall, and you're trying to get through, but you can't because there's a lot of pressure. In fact, it feels like the wall of that blood vessel is pushing you in, and you're really feeling uncomfortable. You can't get anywhere. Again, that cord drops out with a plug on it, and you notice against the wall there's another place to stick a plug in. You go ahead and try it, and the wall relaxes. Schisandra is a vasodilator. It relaxes the blood vessels. And now all of the blood flows smoothly. So you look down through, it's like a tunnel, kind of. You look down and you see all of the blood flowing away from you so you can walk, and you just kind of saunter down there, and you see that the blood's flowing towards what's that down at the end. You get closer, there's something blocking your way. You get closer and closer, and you see, filling the whole space is a heart. And as you get close to this heart, now you can imagine it any way you want. It could be just a symbol of a heart like you see on a Valentine's gift box. You get close and you notice something's wrong. This heart isn't beating. It's just kind of sitting there shivering and trying to beat, but it's not. It looks like maybe this heart is having a heart attack, and if that happens, the journey's over. So you get closer to it, and you figure, well, might as well try the Schisandra again, and you just brush the Schisandra across the heart, and it relaxes and starts beating. Recently, they've discovered that Schisandra seems to be able to prevent heart attacks. Now the heart, very happy and grateful, swings to the side so that you can pass through. And you see that you're moving out of the blood vessel, that reddish tunnel, into another kind of tunnel that looks very different. It's kind of a grayish pink color, and you're not going in there because that thing is filled with this yucky, green, yellow, sticky mucus. It's awful. This must be a bronchial tube. And it's in bad shape. You're not going in there. You look for a plug again, a socket. You see one on the wall. You plug your Schisandra into it, and all of a sudden all this activity starts on the wall of the bronchial tube, pumping action, and it pushes that yucky mucus out, and you hear kind of like a coughing sound. Schisandra is an expectorant. Now that that passage is clear, you can go a little bit further. You're walking down it and kind of looking at the sides of the walls. Interesting. Get a little further, and the atmosphere changes. Suddenly you can't really breathe. There's no air. And you hear this bizarre kind of wheezing sound. Not sure what's going on here, but it's really uncomfortable. Up ahead, just on the left, you see this old Chinese guy squatted down, and he's got some ginger in his hand. It's dried ginger, and he's powdering it. You go up to him, and he looks up and offers you the bowl of dried ginger. You're not quite sure what to do, but you take the dried ginger and you kind of mix your Schisandra leaves in there a little bit and fling it around in the air. And all of a sudden, the wheezing sound stops and fresh oxygen floods in. Schisandra helps asthma. Now all of a sudden, it's like this fresh oxygen just pours in. And it feels so good to breathe that fresh oxygen. And that's another clue. Schisandra increases the oxygen in the body's cells, the oxygen levels in the blood. And that's a two-edged sword, because oxygen, while we need it and it's very healing, it can also do a lot of damage if it gets out of control. So oxygen is one of the things that produces these free radicals, and y'all have seen rust. Well, that's the next part that we see. When we turn a corner, we're still in this tunnel, but we see that the walls of the tunnel are made out of metal. There's been too much oxygen in there, uncontrolled for too long, and the metal is completely rusted. We're walking through and it doesn't feel very comfortable, and it seems a shame because it was probably beautiful metal. And as we're walking through, we've still got the Schisandra in our hand. Something bizarre drops out of it that's a little bit different. This time, what falls out from the bottom of the Schisandra in our hand is a big clod of sod. Now, sod being, of course, a hunk of dirt that has grass growing in it. And this is a symbol for one of the most powerful antioxidants that we have in our bodies, called superoxide dismutase. And superoxide dismutase does a fantastic job of neutralizing this ravaging oxygen that's doing damage to our bodies. And it's something that's mystified scientists for a long time, because they've been trying to figure out how to make supplements of, you'll see SOD supplements sometimes in the store. Those don't work very well because the digestive system changes it. But if we can get more of this into our bodies, it will help to prevent this rusting. And the rusting that's going on in our bodies is a big part of our aging process and the deterioration that we go through. So one of the cool things about Schisandra and the sod that fell out there in that metal chamber is that Schisandra increases the SOD in our bodies. It's a powerful antioxidant. So as soon as that piece of sod fell out, we know what to do with it. We pick it up and we quickly rub it against the sides of the metal, and a shine comes back. It looks platinum and shiny and beautiful and new, and it didn't take much to do it. We're quite pleased with our work. And so now we're almost at the end of the metal tunnel, and we see a room finally open up, and it's kind of a little bit dark in there. It's a circular room. There's not much in it, except in the very middle of the room there's a table with a spotlight shining down on it, and there's an aquarium with water in it. We walk up, look into the aquarium, and floating in the aquarium is a human liver. Well, you've seen how they keep organs alive in laboratories, so this is no different. This is a living human liver in the aquarium floating around. But something's wrong. The water is not clean. It's got a green slime, and you can see the liver is turning brown in places. It's being damaged. Thinking quick, you reach your Schisandra into the water there and stir it around a little bit. The water clears up, and before your eyes, those brown spots on the liver go away and the pink color comes back. but you were in such a hurry you didn't notice the bottle of Tylenol that was balanced on the edge of the aquarium. And you knock it over and it falls into the aquarium. And that acetaminophen, that Tylenol, doesn't take very long at all, and you see little holes being formed in the liver. And that's what it does. It eats holes in the liver. Well, if it worked before, maybe it'll work again. You stick your Schisandra in the water again, swish it around, hoping that this time it'll work, and it does. Before your eyes, the holes in the liver begin to heal. This is another clue. Schisandra detoxifies the liver. It protects it from chemical damage, especially Tylenol and acetaminophen, and it will even restore and regenerate the liver after that kind of damage. Now you're looking across the room and you see another door. Standing in front of the door is a great big sumo wrestler with a loincloth. His arms are folded and he doesn't look very happy. You know you're going to have to pass by him to get through that door into your next part of your journey. So you walk up to him, wondering what it is he wants. He hardly notices you either, and he's kind of fidgeting around and stomping his feet and seems really angry, and you look closer and you look at his skin. There's eczema and rash and hives all over him. Well, try the Schisandra, brush it all over him. The skin clears up. He smiles and he starts to open the door. So, we've made the sumo wrestler happy. And so he opens the door. Maybe we wish he hadn't. Because now we are stepping into a dark, dark, dark tunnel. In fact, it's so dark, we can't see anything at all, and it feels like it's nighttime in here. It is night. This is the hall of night. It's not really hot in here, but suddenly you break out into a sweat. Ooh, night sweats. Since you can't see where you're going, you run your hand along the wall. It feels like kind of a cool stone, and you use that to guide yourself as you walk along. And as soon as the night sweat's starting, other things start going wrong too. Now, all of a sudden, you can't see anything. You're in the night, and you have got to pee. And I mean now. That's a big problem. And that's not all. It gets worse. Not only that, but all of a sudden you realize diarrhea has kicked in. This is really bad. And because you're losing all these fluids, this horrible thirst comes over you. You don't know how long this tunnel is. You don't know if you're going to make it. But then, of course, you do remember you've got the Schisandra. So you grab a berry and stick it in your mouth and swallow it, and boom. Night sweats are gone. You don't have to pee anymore. End of diarrhea. You feel good. That was pretty stressful, but you know what? It's amazing how good you feel. So you get down to the end of the hall, and there's another room. You look inside, and this is another circular room, and there's only one thing in it, and it's right across from you, and it's a big stage with red curtains. And on the stage, there are 3 props. They look like they might be sculptures, maybe made out of plastic, kind of cartoon-like. The one on the left is a heart. The one in the middle is 2 kidneys. The one on the right is a pair of lungs. Interesting. So you walk up to it, you get close, and all of a sudden the Schisandra is pulling at your hand like it wants you to let it go. So you do, and there seems to be some kind of magnetic attraction so that the Schisandra just flies over and lands on top of the heart and the kidneys and the lungs, and it's hanging there like it's on Velcro. Another clue. Schisandra's powers are attracted to those 3 organs, the heart, the kidneys, the lungs. And remembering in Chinese medicine that the organs don't refer to just the organs themselves, but all of their functions and their channels. So it's more than just a heart and kidneys and lungs, but those count. So you're going to take a break from the Schisandra now, and you're kind of tired. It's been a long journey. Why not get some sleep? You go up to the stage. You lay down on the stage. It's quiet in there. You are really tired. You curl up, get comfortable. Yeah, a good night's sleep would feel really right about now. But all of a sudden the tossing and turning starts. And thoughts are rolling through your head. And no matter what, you cannot get to sleep. Schisandra to the rescue. You feel it dropping off of the props, landing on you gently, like falling leaves. And now, all of a sudden, you can get to sleep. Aha! Schisandra helps insomnia. You have a good sleep and you wake up and you swing your legs over the edge of the stage and sit up. But you don't feel all that rested. In fact, you feel really hot inside. And you look down and there's an insulin needle sticking out of your arm. Oh no! Diabetes. And the Schisandra is nowhere to be found. It's just laying all over the stage. Well, of course, you do gather it up. And once you've touched it, the insulin needle drops away and you're fine. No diabetes. Schisandra helps diabetes. What happens at the end of the stage? It's not like you rely on Schisandra to get rid of diabetes. You know, it's like part of a package, but it helps. You're ready to get up and go, and to your left, you see, there's no door, but there's just another kind of like a tunnel-shaped hallway, and it's full of a kind of a light gray fog. It's not dark, but you know, it's just that the way fog looks when you're walking through it. So you're going to have to go through there. Sorry. Get up, walk over, step into the fog. You can feel your way by touching the wall if you want. Again, it's another stone wall. You start walking down. It can't see far ahead at all. And after you've taken a few steps in, something bumps hard into you, almost knocks you off your feet. Turn around, there's nothing there. Go a little further. Something else whooshes in from another direction and bumps right into you. Can't tell what it is. But it's definitely something, and you can't see it, but you can feel it, and it's attacking you. A little bit further along, and these weird kind of like amoeba type things that are funny colors drop down from the ceiling onto your skin, and they're biting you. You want to get rid of those too. Well, it's about time, of course, to break out the Schisandra and see if it works for this. And yeah, of course, you can just brush it all over yourself, and what happens is it creates a protective shield all over your body. Now, when things come rushing up to bump into you, they bounce off. And those little blobby things, which happen to be bacteria, drop down and they just slide off. You've got a protective shield. And this is a clue that Schisandra improves your immune system. And the part of the immune system that it really works on is called the innate immune system. That's the part that's able to defend you from the unknown. In other words, the body doesn't recognize what it is that's attacking it, but it can still put up a good battle and might just win. So that's the part of the immune system. Plus, Schisandra will, if it's in direct contact, directly kill Staphylococcus aureus, which is what causes MRSA. We're almost to the end of our journey now, so you've got your protective shield around you and you're exiting the fog, and ahead of you it's kind of dark again, but you can see where you're going, only there's another obstruction. There's a door ahead that says apothecary, but in front of the door there's a huge deep hole, like a pit. You walk up and you look down there. It's not a pit, it's a wormhole. That thing is really deep and you do not want to step in that, but you got to get across it if you're going to enter the apothecary. You can barely make out a grid pattern running along the top of it, kind of like laser beams. Well, let's see, how do we do this? You drop some Schisandra berries down that hole, and all of a sudden that grid pattern brightens up and becomes really firm. And what the symbol is for this wormhole pit that you've got to get across, that is primordial chi. It strengthens primordial chi. So now you can walk across it and open the door to the apothecary, and you step inside, and it's almost like being in a normal world again, because you see people doing stuff with this plant. On one side of the room, some guy's making wine with it. And then there's a counter where somebody's making something by putting the Schisandra into a jar and pouring honey on it. A honey extraction. And then there's another woman, and she's filled a jar with the berries and she's pouring glycerin on it. That's an interesting way to make it. And then, of course, you see tincturing going on with alcohol, and you see brewing tea. And these are all very interesting, but you pass them by because it's time to enter the last room, which is the doctor's office. As you open the door, the doctor rushes up to you with his stethoscope on, rather concerned. He wants to know how long you've been using Schisandra. And you're a little baffled because you've read or heard that it's a superior tonic herb, and that tonic herbs like that can be taken long term and there's no problem. And so why is he worried? But he is. And he shakes his finger at you and he says, yes, it's a tonic, but it's also astringent. And the astringent is stronger. And you never take an astringent herb long time. And he shakes his head. Well, fortunately you haven't. But he wants you to see what can happen to people who use it incorrectly or didn't know what they were doing. So you step into his waiting room and you see some side effects. Now he says, don't worry, these are rare. They don't happen very often, but you better know about them. And there's a woman, as soon as you enter, sitting in a chair on your left. She's holding her head and she's got a terrible headache. And the next woman is holding her stomach. stomach cramps and it aches, and I hate to tell you, but she starts vomiting. And then you've got somebody who's falling asleep. But something's odd. On the other side of the room, you see a woman giving birth. And you look at the doctor and you said, "What's this? I thought nobody pregnant was allowed on this journey." And he smiles and says, but when they are actually giving birth, that's the time to use Schisandra. And then you notice somebody hiding on the opposite side of the room from you because they're scared of you. They're scared to even get close to the Schisandra in your hand. And the reason is because they're so sensitive and even almost allergic to it, they can't get near it. So now you understand that there can be some side effects, the doctor says. They don't happen very often, but they can happen, and you do not take Schisandra long term like other tonics. So you leave the doctor's office, you're outside, you go back down the path and out the gate, back to your life.